Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Radha Radha Sundari Hari, Radha Radha Sundari Hari, Jaya Radha Madhava 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 Sundari Hari. Jai Prabhupada Paramahamsa, Prabhupada Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Prabhupada Paramahamsa, Prabhupada Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. What is this? Recording. Good. Pretty official. Hare Krishna. Okay, if you give me 1 second to set up, because... All right. Now, this we can turn off now. Premison, turn that off. We don't need it. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 On this 27th day of September 2017 in Columbus, Ohio, we're speaking at a home program, and we'll be reading tonight from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 8, entitled Attaining the Supreme, text number 15, and translations and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Some of you may know this verse. Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam shashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana sansiddhim padamam gata. Translation. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, after attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. Srila Prabhupada's purport. This temporary material world is full of the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. Naturally, he who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme planet, Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan, return. The supreme planet is described in the Vedic lists of Yata and Akshara and Paramagati. In other words, that planet beyond our material vision, and it is inexplicable, but it is goal, destination for Atmas, or transcend messages from the realized devotees, and thus gradually develop devotional service in Krishna consciousness, and become so absorbed in transcendental service that they no longer desire elevation to any of the material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. They only want Krishna and Krishna's association and nothing else. That is the highest perfection of life. This verse specifically mentions the personalist devotees of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. These devotees in Krishna consciousness achieve the highest perfection of life. In other words, they are the supreme souls. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, in this one purport, Srila Prabhupada introduces us to a whole different world. He speaks as if it's just the most natural thing, that there is a transcendental world, there is Goloka Vrindavan, there is a place beyond the miseries of this life, and full of bliss and knowledge, and that this is the highest perfection of life. And Srila Prabhupada's books are filled with these kinds of statements, because he's speaking straight from not only the realized platform, but he's also echoing and quoting so many passages from Shastra itself. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to share with you one little poem I wrote, because Srila Prabhupada is talking here about returning to the spiritual world, we call it the Goloka Vrindavan. Goloka means it's a planet of cows. There, Krishna is there with his friends, with his parents, with his lovers, the gopis, and of course there's all the cows and so many other living beings. So that is our home. Srila Prabhupada made it very clear that many times this phrase, we want to go home, back to Godhead. This is the aspiration for the wise souls, the Mahatmas, the sadhus. So that implies that we were there. How can you have a home that you never visited? We must have been there. So, and indeed, we find in so many passages, Lord Chaitanya is saying, I nandatanu jakinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam buddho and kripaya tavapada pankaja sitadhuli sadrisham vichindaya. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace, consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. So, right there, Lord Chaitanya says we fell from that position of association with Lord Krishna. So that's why we're called Patit. And the great souls are known as Patita Pavana, the purifiers or uplifters of the fallen souls. Out of compassion, they walk this earth, they come down, they're sent down by Krishna from that all wonderful eternal world, and to give us knowledge and give us the means to realize that knowledge and return to our original home. So I'd like to share a little poem that I wrote called The Fall and Redemption of the Soul. Now it's a little bit odd because every line ends with a word ending in ITI, and I'll explain later how that came to be. But here's the little poem, and then we'll explain it. It's all in terms of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Where Krishna lives, felicity abounds. Can be a little distracting. Where Krishna lives, felicity abounds. With pure simplicity and loving sensibility, all serve him with humility. But when a living entity rejects his true identity and out of sheer stupidity surrenders to cupidity, he loses all sagacity, and with it all capacity to understand reality or curb his sensuality. Abandoning humility, he touts his own ability, forgetting his fragility and fortune's volatility. Immersed in asininity for what seems an infinity of lives devoid of piety, suffers in anxiety till contact with God's devotee, perhaps of utmost brevity, awakens his affinity for words of the divinity. Perceiving the futility of all his imbecility, the soul regains his sanity and casts away his vanity. Endowed with new humility, he serves with all ability and growing spontaneity his guru and the deity. Regaining his identity, the wayward living entity returns to the fraternity of Krishna for eternity. So I'm going to go through this poem. It's based on Shastra, and we'll see what we can glean from it. So the first idea is that where Krishna lives, felicity abounds. This is the land of Satchidananda. Everything that is described, Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, engineer of the universe, he has a beautiful book called the Brahma Samhita, Brahma's Song, which Lord Chaitanya found in South India and brought back and made popular amongst all Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And near the end of his song, the Samhita, he has 2 verses describing this spiritual world. He has realization. And it goes like this. Shriya Kanta Kanta Padama Purusha Kalpataravo Dhruma Bhumischinta Managanamahi Torhimamatam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Pibangshi Payasaki Chidanandam Joti Padamapitadasvajam Picha Sayatra Chirabdi Savati Sarabibjas to Sumahan Nimesha Dakyova Vatinihiatra Pisamayak Bhaje Shwetadvipam Tamahamiha Golokamitiyam Vidantaste Santa Chidibidachara Katipaye. So what this insight into what's going on in this spiritual world. So the first statement is Shriya Kanta Kanta Padama Purusha, that the supreme beloved there is Krishna himself, Padama Purusha, the supreme person. And all the beloveds are goddesses of fortune. Shriya Kanta Kanta Padama Kalpataravo Dhruma. The trees there are all desire trees. You can get any fruit in any season, perfectly ripe, organically grown, anytime you want, and offer to Krishna and taste the remnants. Not an ordinary tree. Bhumi's Chintam is not ordinary ground, it's made out of Chintamani gems. And all the water is nectar, perfectly pure. No need for EPA. It's all completely pure, no pollution. Very sweet. And the walking is all dancing, the talking is all singing, and one can always hear Krishna's dear flute playing in the distance. And everything is glowing with blissful spiritual energy that you can taste. Asvadan, the word asvadan was there. And then it describes that there's all of these cows, Surabhi cows, which are so blissful, they're always flooding the land with milk. It's muddy with the milk of these cows, so to be. Not a second passes away there. There's no past. There's no future. There's only the eternal present. No old age, no disease, no death, no change of that kind. So this land is known as Goloka to a very few pure souls who walk this earth. And this is our original home. So this is what I say, felicity abounds. And everybody, why does the felicity abound? Because everybody's in complete unity there in loving Krishna. And he's loving everybody fully, individually. There's no lack there of any kind. Loving sensibility, or serve him with humility. Everyone understands his position as Krishna's servant, loving servant. But there sometimes, some of the living entities there, such as ourselves, somehow or other, we turn away from Krishna. We want to be the enjoyer rather than to serve the supreme enjoyer and enjoy in that way. We want to be the controller, the owner, and the enjoyer. So that's what we reject our true identity, which is spoken by Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself, Jivira Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. We are eternal servants of Krishna. And that's how we can be eternally happy. But we reject that. And out of sheer stupidity, we surrender to cupidity. Now this is how this whole poem came about. Because I'm an editor and I often deal with different words, come across my desk and I look up. So I came across this word cupidity. It's a very rich word. It's obviously started out with lust, that's meaning, but it's evolved to mean greed. So it's a nice combination, 50% greed, 50% lust. This is what binds us here to this world. So when we surrender to that, then we forget Krishna. And we try to enjoy this world. We lose all sagacity, wisdom. We forget who we are, we forget our position, we certainly forget God. And with this loss of sagacity, we could lose our capacity to understand reality or curb our sensuality. The senses then become controlled by what we call the modes of nature. This is described very vividly in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and also 17th and 18th, how the different modes condition us. And we forget all about our eternal life, and we become absorbed in the temporary things of this life. So this is it's like being in a prison, really. Abandoning humility, we try to dominate. So we abandon humility, and we tout our own ability. We're proud of ourselves and how we can do this and do that and so forth. And we forget our fragility, the fact that our position in this world is just like, as Bhaktivedanta Thakur describes in one song, or Lochandas, just like a drop of water on a lotus leaf in a river. At any moment, the wave can come and throw it off. So how secure is our life in this world? We read on the news all the time, some hurricane comes, a disaster, the wars, the earthquakes, diseases are always coming. We have no security here. So very fragile, but we forget about that. And fortune's volatility. You know one of the names of the goddess of fortune? Chanchala. Chanchala. I mean, she doesn't stay in one place all the time. You know, fortunes come and go, right? You invest here, invest there. Maybe you're lucky, make $1 million. Maybe you lose it all. It's coming and going. This is fortune's volatility. So there's no security here. There's no sure means of enjoyment. So we're immersed in this ignorance, or asininity, for what seems an infinity of lives. This can go on for many lifetimes of Brahma. Who can say how long Brahma lives? Prema, you know this one. Premason. He lives 100 years. Okay, how many of our years? See, he knows. 311 trillion and 40 billion. That 40 billion is like a rounding error when you get to 311 trillion. Can you imagine? We live maybe 70, 80, 90 years. That's not even a snap of a finger for Brahma. You can imagine. So we're going round and round and round, many lifetimes of Brahma, and we get merged into Mahavishnu to be in suspended animation for 311 trillion, 40 billion years. And out we come again, resuming our life. On and on and on like that. We don't remember, but we've been here a long time. Each one of us is very, very, very old souls. So we go around. We suffer in anxiety, immersed in that. For what seems an infinity of lives devoid of piety, we suffer in anxiety till, and this is a critical point which I'm going to speak on, contact with God's devotee. Perhaps that's the actual pronunciation, by the way. We have our ISKCON pronunciation of devotee, but in the poems it works better with devotee. Till contact with that, perhaps of utmost brevity. Now this comes straight from a verse. Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Koi, Lavamatra Sadhu Sange Sarva Siddhi Hoy. This is a verse spoken by Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He's emphasizing, when there's repetition, it's greater, it's actually 3 times, very emphasized. Association with sadhus, all the Shastra declare, even a moment's association with a sadhu can bring all perfection to your life.
So that's why I say, perhaps of utmost brevity. Awakens his affinity for words of the divinity. This is the key. That we become attracted to hear the transcendental sound vibration in the form of the holy name, in the form of the Shastra, of words emanating from the mouth of the pure devotee, that can implant in us the faith in these things I've been describing, that to a materialist sound fantastic. Yeah, there's some wonderful world where you can be happy. I got a lot of work to do. Don't distract, don't bother me with these tall tales, you see. But if you meet someone who's really living it and who's obviously on that plane, then he can implant faith so that you pursue it. You read the book, you come to the temple, you come to the program and try to understand these things. This is the real world. This world that we have here, Krishna describes right in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter at the beginning. It's just like a reflection of the spiritual world. It ultimately has no substance. It's like a mirage. A mirage is a very good analogy because it certainly seems to be there. In the prayers of Akrura, he uses this analogy. Yatabodho chalam hitpa parichannam tadudvavai abhyati mrigatrishnam vai tadvatvaham paramukha. He says, just like a foolish person or a foolish animal, I'm thirsty. Visualize like this. We're in a desert, and we're in an oasis within a desert, within a big desert. And we're standing on the edge of that oasis looking out into the desert, okay? And we're thirsty, very thirsty. And right at our feet is a nice cool pool of water, which unfortunately has been overgrown with the foliage that's grown from the water. So we can't actually see that water. So our attention is out in the desert and we see, a wonderful, nice pool of water, a pond. It looks to be right, and we run out, and when we get to that pond, it's not there, it's just sand. It's a mirage. Mrigatrishna. Mrigatrishna means that which the deer or the animals thirst after, the foolish deer. So we're just like that. We have in our hearts, every one of us, the ocean of nectar. Krishna is there. Krishna is there along with the soul. He accompanies us as the super soul. And he can manifest also as Shama Sundar. If we develop love for him, we'll be able to perceive him in our hearts and relate to him. He's actually there. But we don't look within. We don't develop that that fine consciousness by which we can perceive God, not only within but without. Rather, our eyes are covered by ignorance and we only see matter. And we're looking for pleasure and security in this world, but it's just like a mirage. It will not be found. Never be found. Because even if we attain some temporary happiness, it's temporary. What does Krishna say in the Gita? You know this verse. Yahi sangsparjaja bhoga dukkha yona evate adyantabanta konteya nate shura mate buddha. I always think of this verse as very revolutionary. Extremely revolutionary in a society like this, which is based on constantly keeping your desire to buy new things and enjoy running, right? They're very skilled at implanting desires for things. I like to say the whole thing is based on getting you to want to buy things that you don't need with money you don't have, so that they can keep you in debt with the credit card. Isn't it? Run it up and get interest. This is what. Whereas you can really be happy in a very simple way. The perfect example of this, the Goswamis. The 6 Goswamis are the prime disciples of Lord Chaitanya. He didn't write very much, but he inspired them to write volumes and volumes of works that really form the foundation of our literature. And 3 of them were extremely wealthy. Think, Bill Gates and the other guys, billions of dollars. Raghunath Das Goswami, his uncle was known as Hiranya Majumdar, Hiranya for gold. He was extremely wealthy. Raghunath Das was the only heir of this grand fortune. And his whole family, they were Vaishnavas, but they wanted him to take over the business and take over and be, like that. After he met Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, he had no desire for that. Eventually he ran off to Puri, joined Lord Chaitanya, and became the most renounced of the extremely renounced 6 Goswamis. He showed the emblem of renunciation. And Rupa and Sanatan, they were ministers of the Nawab, Hussain, of the king. And they had as much gold and wealth, power and pelf as you could imagine. So what does it say about these, the beautiful song by one of our great acharyas, Srinivas? He says, Chakva Purnamashesha Mandala Patishe Ning Sadat Tuchavat Bhutva Dina Ganeshako Karunaya Kaupina Kantashrito Gopi Bhavara Samatabda Dahari Kallola Magno Mahur Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuya Goshi Jiva Gopalako. So he offers obeisance to all the six Goswamis, and here he's describing especially those who gave up, Chakva Turnam, immediately. As soon as they were inspired by Lord Chaitanya, they immediately, as quick as possible, Rupa and Sanatan had to liquidate everything. It took a little bit of time. But basically they gave up their attachment. Ashesha Mandalapati means endless influence and wealth, and that they gave it up as Tuchavat, completely insignificant. And what did they do? Bhutva Dina Ganeshako Karunaya. They came to Vrindavan and Dina Ganeshako, they became the shelter and the helpers of the most wretched people, namely us, by writing literatures and excavating the places of pastimes and building temples. And Kopina Kantashrito, this is symbolic for how humble they were. They simply got rejected cloth and wrapped themselves in it. They didn't have a place to even live. They would live under each different tree each night. They hardly slept and they hardly ate. So what to speak of power and pelf? They weren't even enjoying the basic necessities of life. But they were Gopi Bhavara Samratabla. They were experiencing the highest ecstasy you can experience. The Gopi Bhava, the love for Krishna in the mood of the gopis. And they were drowning and surfacing and swimming in an ocean of that love. So in other words, they became more happy and more satisfied, infinitely more, by giving up all of this material stuff and showing by example and writing their books and doing what they were doing. They were at the highest level. So this is just the opposite of my little poem here, where you're constantly struggling to enjoy, but they're forgetting their fragility and volatility. So by this contact with the sadhu, one gets the seed of the creeper of devotion. And when you plant it in your heart and you water it with hearing and chanting amongst sadhus, as we're doing now, then that creeper flourishes. But we have to be careful to keep the garden. Tend the garden means pull out the weeds of offenses and things like that. There's a whole science to it. So, but the contact with the devotee awakens the affinity for words of the divinity. And if one pursues this and continues trying to live his life according to those words, then perceiving the futility of all as imbecility, means his foolishness in previous life, the soul regains his sanity, and the first step to cast away his vanity. The whole thing that's preventing us from surrendering to Krishna is this false pride in this fragile little body of ours and the little, control that we have over this world. We're really helpless. We're being tossed and turned on the ocean of birth and death. So, by recognizing that and casting away our vanity, then we can again be endowed with new humility and approach the Guru, approach Krishna, and begin to serve with all ability. And gradually it comes with growing spontaneity, because as I mentioned, and it is clear, this is our natural state. So it's spontaneous. As spontaneously now as we enjoy sense gratification, we can spontaneously enjoy serving Krishna more naturally. It's unnatural to try to do it. There's one verse which I always forget the Sanskrit, Yuvatina Mita Yuni. Just as a young boy's mind is, adolescent boys is absorbed with young girls and vice versa, similarly, O Krishna, let my mind take pleasure in always thinking of you. The same thing, always thinking of Krishna. And the point is, there's never any disappointment. These material affairs, they eventually produce a lot of pain. Sooner or later, they're broken, isn't it? And when they're broken, sometimes, very painfully, it can be devastating. But the relation with Krishna never needs to be broken. It's always there. It's just forgotten. Krishna never stops things. He never stops paying attention to us. Prabhupada would say, you take one step to Krishna, he takes 10 steps to you. He claims to be Suridam Sarvabhutanam. You know that there's different levels of friendship, just like we have in English. Oh yes, he's my bosom buddy. You know? Oh no, he's just an acquaintance. And you know, he's a golfing partner or something. You know, there's different levels of intimacy. So Surit is the most intimate friend. And what does Prabhupada define? Your ever well-wisher. He would sign his letters that way. Means that he always has your best interest at heart. And he's always ready to do good things for you. Where can you find a friend like that? There's always a limit. Okay, you need a loan? I'll give you a loan. Yes. You come back again next month for another loan? All right, maybe. Third month? I don't know. Why don't you get your life together, you know? But Krishna is always with us in the heart. He's always, can you imagine? He's always ready to help us by giving us good instruction. That's the most important thing. The problem is we can't hear him from the heart. So he says, okay. So he comes outside and appears as the book. This Krishna is speaking to all of us, not just to Arjuna. This is for all of us. He's speaking for eternity, for all humanity. And he appears also as the sadhus, as the guru, to give us good instruction. They're giving the same instruction. So that instruction is to once again reawaken the relationship with Krishna and act in it, and we'll find that it's more and more pleasing. And so we have increasing spontaneity. So I say in growing spontaneity, the guru and the deity. This is the ragatmaka bhakti, the bhakti that's on the spontaneous platform, beyond rules and regulations, just a steady flow of loving devotion and reciprocation with Krishna. And so remember, the beginning was we lost our true identity, so now he's regaining his true identity. The wayward living entity returns to the fraternity of Krishna for eternity. And Krishna says in several places in the Gita, Yad Gadvana Navartante, once going back, you don't return. And Prabhupada explained this as once burned, twice shy. We'll remember our lesson, that you know, all those millions of births. But we won't dwell on it. It'll be enough of a curb for us to forget Krishna again. So this is really the program that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Well, everything keys on this is that we wake up from our dream of material life. Now, as I was emphasizing in previous classes, Srila Prabhupada often emphasized, is that we have this rare human life. This is a great chance. This is why Prabhupada was such an urgent thing for him to come to the West, because he knew that his own time was running out. He was elderly, in not such great health, and that he had spent a lifetime really from youth, in his 20s, of being. He was always a devotee, but he met his spiritual master, I think, in 1922, and he was about 26 at that time. So, and then he was committed, and he became initiated, of course, and all that time he's running his household. He had 5 children. He had a business. And he was, but still trying to preach. The urgency was there. But he didn't really succeed so much in India. So it was like, well, it's the old adage of do or die, you know. Better to die trying than to not try. That's the whole thing. So he, somehow or other, he left India at age 69. Actually, he was 68 when he got on that boat, turned 69. And, you know, with his box of books. The books are really important. He felt he needed to have those books, the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that he published himself at great effort in India, transcendental bombs, you know, that he was going to explode the illusion. He needed that armory. And so with that, it gave him great courage, and he got on that boat, and in great difficulty, you know the story, he almost died on the boat of heart attack. He came to America, wandering around, no money. It's an amazing story. The determination he had. And what was the motive? He wasn't trying to make money. He wasn't trying to start a business or anything. He was just doing it for us. He was Krishna's representative, reaching out, Krishna to somehow or other implant this faith and knowledge in the hearts of a few fortunate souls. So we're also part of those fortunate souls. Now, how can we get Prabhupada's association? It's almost 40 years now, almost 40 years to the day now, a couple of months, that he's been gone personally from this planet. They still the words that he left in his books. There's so many recordings. You want the recordings of Prabhupada, just ask me. I'll give you all his lectures. And I have them on, you know, And you can hear this wonderful expression of this transcendental knowledge. And especially the books, Prabhupada was very keen on writing them and having them presented in a very attractive way. I've been very fortunate my whole career of over 40 years of working on Srila Prabhupada's books and producing them and reprinting them and so many things. And because with the words are immortal. We sometimes think, oh, if I was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, I could have been there with Krishna. But the fact is that these absolute sounds, time doesn't affect them. You can get as much benefit from the Bhagavad Gita as Arjuna did, if you receive it in the mood that Arjuna did, as a disciple. And basically, you'd say, Karishe Bachanang Tava, Asavameta Dhrita Manya Yagmang Vadasi Keshava, as he says in the 10th chapter. Oh, Madhava, oh Krishna, I accept as truth everything that you say. He said. And then at the end of the Gita, Karishe Vachanam Deva, I will do as you say. So this is a challenge for all of us. And the great benefit is beyond our imagination. To break free of the bonds of birth and death, to return to this world that all the acharyas describe. I give you a little description from Brahma Samhita. That's reality. And if we really believe that and we earnestly practice Krishna consciousness, as Srila Prabhupada gave it, we can experience these things. And in this life, or maybe a future life, not too far in the future, we can return to our original state, loving devotion to Krishna. So this is the Krishna consciousness movement, and of course it's all based on the chanting of the holy name. This is the great practice for this age. Once again, this one we haven't done yet. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva gatiranyata. I remember this is one of the first verses I memorized. It was so easy. There's only a few different words in there. So I put it into a poem. If you want to achieve the supreme goal of life in this age, when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way that can ever be found but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, O Lord Krishna, O friend of the poor, let my head ever unto your lotus feet. So the last part is kind of in the mood that we have to chant. Trinada Vishuni Chena, Lord Chaitanya. So there's so much to learn and know about Krishna consciousness, but it's actually, in one sense, very simple. It means that we recognize our position and we call out to Krishna for inspiration to cultivate the knowledge and do the practices by which we can purify our heart and return to God in this lifetime. So with that, if there's any discussion or questions, we can entertain them at this time. Prema Sindhu Prabhu.
Most of us are working people.
Yes.
With families. What you are describing seems like it's difficult to do with all the responsibilities that are there. So, how would we get that? What should we do? What is the most important thing to do, and how?
The most important thing to do is to decide to start the process. It can be started on any level. This is the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness. I remember when I started, it's true I wasn't a family man, but I did have a job, I had an apartment, I had a car, and a little bank account. So I was well on my way to getting totally entangled in this world. But it was a different circumstance. But I started with 2 rounds a day, which is not at all difficult. Just to chant japa is a simple thing. And to read a little Bhagavad Gita every day and learn how to offer the food. None of this is very complicated. It just requires a little determination. And of course to accept some of these restrictive principles, because in any discipline, we're talking about trying to reform our life. I've been comparing it, and it's a perfect comparison, that in one sense, Prabhupada uses the term conditioned soul. Conditioned soul means that we're habituated to thinking along the lines to keep us bound to this world. We're habituated to forgetting Krishna, trying to enjoy the senses and doing all these things. So those bad habits have to be reformed. And Krishna consciousness is a way to do it, systematic means. So we can start, the whole thing is sincerity and faith. Start with something we can accept, we can integrate into our lives. Yes, it means we have to, the first thing basically, the real commitment, get to bed a little earlier. Cut out some of the thing from the evening. Get to bed a half hour earlier, wake up a half hour earlier, and use that extra half hour before you go to work or go to school or take care of the children, whatever, to practice Krishna consciousness in a simple way. You have a little altar with some pictures. It can be simple to start with. And then you sit down, you bathe and you sit down in a calm corner of your house and you chant japa. Or you have a little kirtan and to quiet the mind, and then you chant. You see? It can be 2 rounds. Then you read. Everything is budgeted. The time is budgeted, so it's all within a half hour. And that sets the mood of the day. Whatever you do early in the morning, that's going to affect your whole day. And then you go about your life. Now you learn how to cook, what foodstuffs to cook, that you can offer to Krishna. That's a whole art and science. And basically it has to be done, according to the books, according to someone who's experienced. And in this way, you start the process. And you, of course, associate with the devotees, try to visit the temple, have programs, go to programs. The whole idea is to start to transform your focus, where Krishna is a greater part of your life. And Krishna consciousness is increasing in your life. And you'll find the wonderful thing about it, there's so much joy, even from the beginning. The chanting of the holy name, if you could just get into a kirtan, do a little dancing and chanting, you'll find, yes, there's something happening here. It's spontaneous, it's natural for the soul. So it doesn't matter. You can be a student, you can be a worker, you could be a mother, you could be a child. Everyone is eligible to begin Krishna consciousness. And then you can go at your own speed. It's not a question of if we're going back to Godhead. We're all going back to Godhead. It's just a question of when and how fast. And that depends on our sincerity and our determination. So there's no excuse. Everybody, working, non-working, whatever it is, it can be Krishna conscious.
Prabhuji,
yes, sir.
The previous days, in the olden days, it was a different setup was there. I mean, if you take different professions are there, where now the demand of your only work is every night you can work.
Yeah.
So, especially if you are working all night, you don't have the same strength during the daytime to do the
That's
things.
true. That's true.
So, especially if you take essential units like emergency medicine or trauma or ambulance people, police people, of course.
There's a lot of unregulation.
Yes,
Yeah. That makes it
So,
more difficult.
What I found is, all my life I did that. This is the only time since I retired, I'm having the time.
Well, I hate to say that everybody has to wait till they retire to take up Krishna consciousness, but you're describing a society that's become so
Right.
crazy, where yes, they're making you decreasing the time that you have, disposable time,
Yeah.
where it's your own time, and that's a tragedy. I don't know what to say about that. That you need to somehow carve out some time where you can practice Krishna consciousness. I mean, I integrated. I was a hospital worker.
Yeah.
I wasn't a doctor, so I was regular hours. But when I was going out on the floor with my inhalation therapy, I was, for a whole year or more, I worked as that. And I would try to chant, and I would chant to the patients, maybe not so loudly, but to myself. I had this idea that I could project a mantra and somehow help them get better. Sometimes it worked. And but the point is, I was chanting. Wherever you have a chance, you need to try to do that. But and one thing is that there's often like a break. Okay, you have a vacation, you have a period of time. Use that wisely. You can use it on a retreat where it's just Krishna consciousness. They always come up. There's a beautiful one in North Carolina every May. At the end of May, Memorial Day, there's a lot of chanting. Wonderful devotees come. The Festival of Inspiration is coming up. No, it's in May. I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up.
Festival of Holy Name is coming.
Festival of the Holy Name. So there's time. Now that you're retired, you can make your schedule.
I have time now to do it.
Yes.
I'm doing it.
The next time we see you, you're going to be in a dhoti tilak and with beads, and you're going to be dancing and chanting.
I'll be dancing right now.
You're already dancing. So that's the point is that somehow if Krishna will make time for you, if you really want it.
Oh, I did.
That's the idea.
I was, when traveling in the car to work or coming back, I was listening to these things.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good practice. The whole idea is that somehow or other to understand the importance of it, and that don't delay and don't postpone and don't procrastinate, because we don't know what our situation will be. And the urgency is there. As much Krishna consciousness as possible, as soon as possible. Okay, anyone else? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol Amit.
I wanted to ask, when we face events in life, we are on the urge of deathbed, or we see somebody sick, we don't have capacity to handle pain. How do we handle pain? How does Krishna consciousness help us in handling those situations?
You mean handling it from the point of the person on the bed, or you're handling their suffering?
Both.
Okay.
Physical pain as well as emotional pain.
Yes, these are the tests in life that come to everybody, and Krishna consciousness really is focuses on that of preparing us for that. Now, the idea is that we're trying to train the mind and the senses to stay, as Krishna emphasizes in Gita in many places, to be able to stay equipoised and tolerate even the most difficult, to keep your mind, your wits about you, so that you can remember Him and you can chant even in the greatest difficulty. This is a test. So, but ultimately, of course, I'm not going to say, someone is experiencing excruciating pain, don't take anything for the pain, just chant Hare Krishna. I mean, that's, the Mahabhagavats can do that. It means the greatest devotees. But we may not be able to do that. But the idea is that we should understand, the meaning of these situations, first of all. That this is the characteristic of material life. And therefore, before that stage comes, we should work to steady our consciousness and become fixed in Krishna consciousness, so that when the pain comes, we can call out to Krishna and we can tolerate, and we can, even through the pain, we can understand Krishna. And when we're present with someone who's on their deathbed, we should be chanting Hare Krishna. We should give him every chance to hear the holy name when the soul actually leaves the body. This is the most auspicious. I've been present for at least half a dozen or more devotees leaving their body. And what happens is, okay, the time has come, and devotees gather, and we have non-stop kirtan, And I remember one instance, it was this wonderful devotee. He was actually a cripple, but he would go out every day and distribute books, even from his wheelchair. And finally, his progressive disease, he had a progressive neurological disease. The time came, and he had a crisis. He went into the hospital, and he was on this breathing tube where they put down your throat, intubate. So after some days with that, he was awake, and he was able to communicate by writing on a pad. And they informed him, well, we're going to pull the tube out. It's not a permanent situation, and we can keep you in a home, but you'll be on the breathing machine and so forth. And he said, forget it. I didn't want that. Up until that point, he had been maintaining his independence with a devotee caretaker, So he decided to leave his body. He was calm about it. And so I was about to leave on one of these trips. I would come to Florida and come to Columbus. And so I said, well, I'm leaving on Thursday. He said, okay, we'll do it on Wednesday. And so all the devotees gathered in the room, and they pulled out all the plugs and everything. And we just had this kirtan going on. And it was very auspicious. People were sad, they were losing his association, but they were happy that he was, going Godhead, or in a very auspicious place. So this is the ultimate test in life. And Krishna says, what happens when you leave the body, what your thoughts are is the key element of what your destiny is. Every day, every moment. So that's why constant Krishna who is. It's so important. If we can think of Krishna as the last thought, then we'll go back to the Goloka Vrindavan. And even if we can't, whatever we can do, okay, we'll come back, one more birth. It's progressive. Everything else in material stays here. Whatever you have in terms of wealth or fame or whatever, relationships, that's all gone with the body. But your consciousness stays with you. And that's who you really are. So Krishna promises, next life, you'll be born in a family which will encourage this, continuing your Bhakti Yoga practice. Or you'll be born in a devotee family from your very birth, like some of these children, they're most fortunate. So this is how we understand, in a broader sense, these critical things. Now, dealing with each individual one, that's up to our strength of Krishna consciousness. But whatever the situation, we shouldn't take it as as an instance, or no, we forget about Krishna and think of only the. No, the whole idea is to bring Krishna into every situation and realize that this is what it means to be in the material world, where you see, well, Krishna is testing us, and so to see if we can really maintain our devotion to him and our faith even in these trials. So the devotees understand what this means, and our whole philosophy gears on understanding the real nature of material life, which is fraught with these difficulties. And therefore, we don't want to stay here. We don't want to come back. We want to go back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. So, more kirtan?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that somebody may think that there's so many Bhagavad. What is unique about this
Bhagavad Gita, as it is. Srila Prabhupada, if you open this Bhagavad Gita and you read the preface, especially, you'll find why did he write this Bhagavad Gita? There's so many Bhagavad Gitas. I remember before I joined, I said I was in the hospital. I was reading Bhagavad Gita. I wasn't reading this Gita. I was reading a little small Gita. Gita is only 700 sentences. It's really small. A little paperback. With no commentary. But even without that, it was, giving me some instruction. But Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, he called Bhagavad Gita as it is, because so many other Bhagavad Gitas, they somehow obscure Krishna, who is the subject of the Bhagavad Gita, the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, and the goal of the Bhagavad Gita. But Bhagavad Gita is so famous, it's often misused for various purposes, some political purposes, or to put some own idea. Somehow you can screw out some impersonal philosophy from Bhagavad Gita. I don't know how they do it, but they try to do it. So the as it is refers to all the commentary. This commentary is based on that of a great scholar devotee named Baladev Vidyabhushan. And that's also distilled from all the writings of the Goswamis. I mentioned Rupa and Sanatan especially. So what this Bhagavad Gita especially does, it emphasizes Krishna, which he does in the text of the Gita. So many places. What's the most confidential knowledge? We can all chant together. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madjaji mam namaskaru mame vaishasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Krishna says twice, this verse basically appears twice at the end of the 9th chapter and near the end of the 18th chapter. Just think of me, become my devotee, worship me, bow down to me. You certainly come to me. I promise you this, you're my very dear friend. Now he's not just promising Arjuna, he's promising us also. And then the next verse is like the most essential verse, altogether. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayasyami ma shuchaha. I put these two verses into a little poem, forgive me. Just think of me, become devoted, worship me and bow down low. You'll come to me, O friend, I promise you this boon I shall bestow. Give up all other dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins I'll nullify, O Arjun. From anxiety be free. So this is the most confidential knowledge of the Gita and the most confidential knowledge of the Vedas. You see? So how can you have a Gita that doesn't emphasize that? So, but they did. So this special Bhagavad Gita, which you can see is very substantial, and that's just a 50-page paperback. Prabhupada especially was eager to present it in an authoritative way. He gives the Devanagari, he gives the transliteration so we can chant them. I'm not really a Sanskrit scholar, but I've been chanting these verses, and I'm chanting always from the transliteration, the synonyms, understanding. Then translation, then an explanation based on previous acharyas. So one can be sure that that one is getting it as it is because it's received from a devotee. Krishna says in the 18th chapter also, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tatvataha tato mam tatvato gyatva vishade tadanantaram. One can understand me as I am only by devotion. And understanding me in truth, one can enter into the spiritual world. So how to get that understanding? One has to understand from a devotee the truth of Krishna. Otherwise, the message becomes obscured and fogged. So that's the great value of this Bhagavad Gita as it is. And Prabhupada would point out, and of course it's even more so today, even during his time, that although there are all these other translations, hundreds of them, English translations from the 19th century, we had Thoreau and Emerson and the so-called transcendentalists reading Bhagavad Gita, not really understanding it. That now with this Bhagavad Gita, given out by the millions literally in many languages of the world, there are thousands and thousands of devotees that are becoming devotees from the basis of this Gita. Whereas before, nobody became a devotee. Because you end up reading the Gita and you say, oh, okay, what does that mean? You know, is it karma yoga? Is it jnana yoga? Should I meditate? I'm not sure. You know, when you read Bhagavad Gita, there's no question what to do. Surrender to Krishna. Anything else? So we have another kirtan? Go ahead, one more, Alec.
So when you say that, just surrender unto Krishna and he will assure that we will go back home, back to Godhead.
That's what he says.
But then we are also saying that surrender plus also you need to chant. Now,
that's part of the surrender.
So,
Surrender means I'll do what you say. And what does the Guru say? Chant. And therefore the surrender means to take up the process. Yeah, satatam kirtiyanto mam.
Surrender, if we think of a big package, then chanting is one of them. Is there any other things also that needs to be done as a part of surrender?
Yes. Surrender means that thy will be done. You know, beginning as Arjun says, chapter 2, text 7. Shishasteham shariman tvam papannam. Now I am surrendered to you. I'm not going to argue with you anymore, Krishna. That was my idea, your idea, maybe my idea is better. No. Now you instruct me for certain. I'm accepting you as a guru. I'm your shishya. Shishya means a disciple, or someone who agrees to act according to the words of the guru. Now the ultimate guru is Krishna. And so the words of the genuine guru simply reflect those of Krishna for our personal, situation. The most important thing that, Prabhupada gave us in terms of his books, they were in English, so we can understand them. All this knowledge was there in Sanskrit and Bengali, but we had no access. Certainly we didn't have an access, some of you may have. But he made it accessible, and through the English language, translated into all these other languages. And so the message is the same. A surrender means that Kadeshe Vachanantava. I'll do as you say. And I won't do as you say not to do. There's two sides of the same thing. That's what surrender means. It's described, and we'll end with this. Everything, these Goswamis have covered all bases. What is surrender? Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshishyati vishvasko, goptrid vevadanantata, atmanikshipa karpane, shadvadha, shadanagati. Shadanagati means surrender. 6 aspects. This is it, the bottom line. Accepting those things that are favorable for devotional service, rejecting those things and activities that are unfavorable for devotional service. Always being confident that Krishna will protect in any circumstance, and always being confident of his maintenance as well. So this is yoga and kshema. This is the famous yoga and kshema. Your necessities and your welfare. And always remaining meek and humble and having no interests separate from Krishna. So it's quite a threshold. But that's the bottom line of entering into the house of real bhakti. So because, accepting what is favorable, some of those things I don't like, you got to accept them anyway. And giving up, I have to give up that? Yes, you have to give up that, even though you may like it. That's surrender. Any student, you have to accept so many exams, so much money you have to pay. I don't like it. I want to party. No, you can't party now. You have to study. Any discipline, there's always do's and don'ts. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We'll have another little kirtan. Shall we have another kirtan? Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. Oh, it's okay. So we're not going to sit. We got to stand. Part of the program